The Kansas City Chiefs have traded left guard Joe Thuney to the Chicago Bears for a 2026 fourth round pick. I'm Tucker Franklin, Breaking News Team, coming at you, giving you everything you need to know about this trade and much more. Let's go.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
Just me hanging out here with you as the Chiefs trade left guard and left tackle, Joe Thuney to the Chicago Bears for a 2026 fourth round pick. I'm Tucker Frank. We'll be joined shortly by a lot of other crew members here on KC Sports Network. Wanted to get this started, want to get this rolling. Appreciate everyone hanging out with us live at the time in the chat. I know that there's a lot of mixed reactions over this. We'll get to that. It is starting to be a very weird off season. Marcus, only weird off seasons, as you say in the YouTube chat. Appreciate you guys hanging out here with us as well. Yeah, Justin says so. Kingsley to guard. We'll get into that a whole lot, but looking at it right now, it looks like the Chiefs, per Tom Pelissaro, he tweeted this out. The Chiefs love Joe Thuney, but they weren't in position to extend the 32-year-old guard with so many of their own young players headed towards free agency. So they gain cash and cap flexibility. That's important. They gain cash and cap flexibility plus a pick next year, while Chicago gets another starting offensive lineman for Caleb Williams. So look, another trade on the offensive line here for the Chicago Bears, as their focus remains pretty clear that they are going to load up on the offensive line in Chicago. But a very interesting development here is it all kind of happened really fast as we are hanging out here on 8:45 a.m. right now is currently while we're live here on the Breaking News Team, breaking this trade down. I believe initial reports, if I go and check my Twitter timeline, it looks like this developed in about 30 minutes in total from the time that we got, hey, the Chiefs are looking to trade Joe Thuney. 41 minutes is the Diana Rossini initial tweet. The Chiefs are engaged in discussions surrounding the four-time Super Bowl champion Joe Thuney. Chicago is one of the teams interested in the two-time All-Pro. That all happened very quickly because 20 minutes later, Diana Rossini followed up by saying the Chicago Bears have made an offer. Still some details to work out, but trending in the right direction. At the same time, Ian Rappaport tweeted out kind of the same thing, that the Bears are expected to trade for him as the Chiefs kind of look to get a little bit younger. And then finally, about, let's see how long ago this tweet was. About 13 minutes ago from the recording of this podcast, about 10 minutes from the second follow-up tweet from Diana Rossini, Adam Schefter comes back and says the Bears are trading a 2026 fourth-round pick to the Chiefs for Pro Bowler Joe Thuney. Something that happened very fast. Another thing that happens very fast is people joining the KCSN Breaking News Team. I'm here with now Joshua Briscoe. Josh, thank you for joining the KCSN Breaking News Team. Good morning. Have you had your cup of coffee yet?
Just got it brewed. I've got one of my newer mugs in the collection from Renee, the Trash Ketchum Ash Ketchum Possum mug. And it does feel like perhaps the Chiefs are playing a little bit of possum with us on the offensive line plan. Good morning to you, Tucker. This has to be amongst the earliest in any day that you and I have ever spoken to each other, seen each other's faces. We used to work in the night and then and then late afternoon, and we didn't do a whole lot of morning work. But I'm glad we're here now. Kind of a weird one on a variety of levels, fittingly enough, and we can take this from any angle you want. It's a little bit strange, and I'm gonna say a twinge of disappointment. Maybe similarly to how L'Jarius Sneed left town last year, kind of an unceremonious end to Joe Thuney's time in Kansas City.
Yeah, I hate that the lasting image of Joe Thuney is going to be that Super Bowl. That'll be the last game. I think that'll be a little bit disappointing, but I think a lot of people, especially a lot of people that listen to this here program, they realize, and they're smart enough to realize that, like, that's not how Joe Thuney will be remembered as a Kansas City Chief. Appreciate everyone hanging out with us live at the time here as we just kind of are live processing the Chiefs trading Joe Thuney. And you know, Josh, we've had this conversation, as I kind of already ran through the timeline there, of how everything went down, because it felt like it materialized pretty quickly. Sometimes these trades happen it takes a really long time. Sometimes trades just happen pretty quick, right? Like as you mentioned last year, the L'Jarius Sneed one took a long time to materialize in terms of how long we were talking about it. This one was like on our radar and then off of it as quickly as it came on the radar. Yeah. I'm curious what your reaction is as we look ahead now to, well, what does this offensive line look like in 2025? They get a 2026. I think it's important to note it's a 2026 fourth round pick, which then, if you think about it, how the way that the usually the trade math works with picks is if it's a future pick, it like bumps down a round in value currently. So it's really like a this year fifth round pick, which I think probably fair for Joe Thuney. Truthfully, if they would have got a fifth round pick this year, I'd put it like, oh, okay. But they've got to move on from the cap. I think that's the big thing. And what you guys have talked about a lot on Only Weird Games is they were on the books for paying a lot of money to offensive linemen. And now they get that money off the books as they're about to pay another interior offensive lineman, presumably a lot of money.
Yeah, and this is a little bit, I'm going to just take it on 2025 first because it's it's what's next. This is largely a long-term move, but I can't get past what this makes me think about next year. What happened this offseason before the trade today that we talked about that was like a little bit of a hole to poke in the strategy. Again, it's a little bit reductive, but the Chiefs' offensive line was a problem throughout last season, and they were basically running it back. Was like that was the plan for 2026 or 2025, I mean, was to basically run back your 2025 offensive line, maybe with DJ Humphries from week 1 at left tackle, but it didn't seem like it was going to be a big splash. Well, now I kind of think that they're going to more or less run back the offensive line. I should say they were going to run it back, but it was going to be more expensive because they were investing in Trey Smith as opposed to the rookie contract. Now, I think they're going to end up spending about the same amount of money on this offensive line for the foreseeable future, and it's worse. I mean, there's a lot of maneuvering. I like talking about team building if it's in video games when I really enjoy the team building aspect, or it's in the real deal talking about salaries and draft picks and all that stuff. I love that stuff. Mm-hmm. I am not a mortgage the future to win tomorrow kind of guy. But I'm now looking and going, okay, Kingsley Suamataia is now a highly drafted left guard. That's just got to be the plan. Yes. I mean, if they still believe in him at tackle, fine, but I don't think they do. And this is a path to put him in the starting lineup now, and maybe they really like him there. Okay, fine. So now you've spent a second-round pick on your essentially Trey Smith replacement because it's your guard on a rookie contract, even though I do not believe that the Chiefs will move Trey Smith to the left side. I can't imagine they're even really planning about that.
Yeah.
I didn't know people think left side better, right side worse. It's going to be where they fit. Kingsley was working on the left side, whatever, we'll see. But now you have a line where you have replaced the best pass protecting guard in football with a guy who's only played guard snaps at the NFL level in a meaningless Week 18 game in Kingsley Suamataia. Trey Smith is not as good of a pass protector as Joe Thuney. He's not a disaster. I don't want to overstate it. He's a very good player, and he's a weapon in the run game, and that's all well and good. But the offensive line is worse now than it was earlier this morning. It's more expensive now than it was at the beginning of the offseason. I don't think this means that these are all massive missteps, but it does mean the margin for error has never been tighter for this team, because they're making real moves here where, again, to go back to the similar feeling trade from last year, Joe Thuney is the circumstances are different, but he is your older and more established comparison to L'Jarius Sneed, and maybe that makes Trent McDuffie your Trey Smith, right? And kind of seeing that succession plan, who you move on from and who you pay. But Trey Smith had better be Trent McDuffie is Trent McDuffie. Trey Smith has to prove that he's going to be an absolutely elite top 5 guard in football.
Yeah. And
then they've got to hit that bet on Kingsley Suamataia, and left tackle is still up in the air. It's a busy offseason now.
It is. And this is really interesting too on the front of you mentioned the Trey Smith front, because the Bears were presumably one of the teams that were in on Trey Smith. And so like the Bears have realized they've made 2 trades for interior offensive linemen in 2 days. So they've realized, okay, that ship has sailed. Like, he's not getting traded. He's probably signing a deal, or he's playing on the tag. Either way, I want to mention, by the way, Josh, I went to go look up. I was like, oh, what? Joe Thuney's cap number this year. I should go look that up. I'll run over to Spot Track real quick. They already changed him to the Bears.
Like, they already moved him?
They already moved him over. They're like, all right, he's over. But it's a $10 million dead cap hit, I believe, for the Chiefs in this trade as well.
A good point. You're right. This is not moving all 26 or whatever it was.
Correct. 26 was the cap hit. It's 16 now is going to be for the Bears. 10 million dead hit for the 26 million. Sorry, I saw a message from Nate. I don't know if you saw this. I'll bring that up here in a second.
Okay, I haven't seen that.
$26 million was going to be the cap hit. So the Chiefs were staring down the barrel of a $26 million, almost $27 million, because 26.9, left at guard, and a $24 million right guard, for sake of rounding in clean numbers. Nate just sent us this message.
It's a $60 million interior, by the way, with Creed's hit being a little bit north of $10 million this year.
See, that's so interesting. It's so interesting with like Creed is like he makes the most money at center. Like, oh yeah, he must be really expensive. Not 13.
See, that's why that deal made so much sense to me.
Yeah.
There are 2 comments that are kind of on different ends of the spectrum that I think will be good to chat about, but I don't know what Nate sent, and I'm curious about what Nate sent. So
okay, let's hit the Nate, and then we'll Josh, you and I will hit a break here, probably coming up here pretty soon, but then we will, and then we will like fully dive into like talking to the chat, because I think that's where we really hit our stride here with these breaking news teams. We've given you guys all the information. Nate Taylor sent us in the group message. He said, somebody put this out there. So I assume that he's talking to me. When he said somebody put this out here, because I have a microphone in front of my face and I'm live on YouTube and Twitter right now. So
what does Nate Taylor say?
He says, I think Ronnie Stanley might be in play.
I think he's saying that somebody had put that out there. So he's saying that's out there now.
Well, now it's out there in the world. Do you see how I took that though?
Yeah. I mean, I think that might just be in the. I think it's okay that that's out there by the phrasing of all of that.
You see how that comes across.
And that's the other thing. That's the other thing that it opens up, is that there are a couple of things in the chat that are interesting, and then there's the entire conversation about left tackle. And I wasn't excited to talk about Ronnie Stanley, but maybe we need to now. The breaking news team, Tucker. This is how it goes.
We just kind of roll with the punches here on the breaking news team. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us live at the time, or listening to this after the fact. We do appreciate you guys listening to it. If you're not able to catch it at the time, look, if you're not able to catch this one live at the time, I would understand. This all happened pretty quick with the Joe Thuney news. Appreciate everybody rocking in the chat as well. Let us know your thoughts as well in the chat. Let us know on Twitter at Tucker D. Franklin, at JB Briscoe. You can tweet at us there at KC Sports Network. I'm going to be curious to see how the Chiefs approach this offensive line strategy, because, look, this is something that if you look at the free agents available, you look at the draft class available, you look at those things and you're like, whew, I don't really feel confident in really any of those options. So I wonder if, maybe that was a situation where the Chiefs kind of felt the same. They're looking at the same list we are, right? So, like, if they're looking at the same list we are, they know a little bit better about the players that they have in-house, right? They know more than I do in terms of Kingsley Suamataia. Maybe they were comfortable with him saying, okay, yeah, he has really looked good at guard. And as you mentioned, he only has gained reps in that Week 18 disaster class against the Denver Broncos. But this is a way for them to move some money on the interior of the offensive line. As we talked about, they were going to have to do that anyway. Like, they were going to have to try to figure out how to get the money away. You can't restructure a 1-year deal, right? I saw some people say like, "Oh, you can just restructure it." It's like, no, you can't. You have to re-sign them to a new contract.
Right. You may be effectively able to do that with Travis Kelce's deal, because it's just gonna. But like, that's not really how that's gonna work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we want to hit a break? Do we need to pay a bill? Because I'm getting itchy over here.
Yeah, I do want to bring this one up. Seamus Levin says, "R.I.P. to the rundown for the lab tonight." Yeah. R.I.P. to it. If you think I've already made the rundown for the lab tonight, you guys are sorely mistaken. But yes, Josh, let's hit a break. Let's pay some bills, and on the other side, we'll talk about some interesting things from the chat, offensive line construction, Maybe we'll be joined by somebody else. I don't know. We'll see after this.
Shop Chiefs tickets and more with no fees. Plus, save big with code KCSN at ticketsforless.com, the official ticket provider of KC Sports Network.
Success in real estate takes more than vision. It takes the right financial partner. When someone takes something rundown and turns it into something great, that's called a comeback story. Like Bryan Group. They take distressed properties here in KC, completely rework them, and then turn them into valuable real estate. But that kind of work needs the right bank behind it. Enter Emprise Bank. They're not about cookie-cutter loans. They saw Bryan Group's vision, backed them, and now they're making big moves in Kansas City real estate. Talk about your partner in possible. Emprise doesn't do one-size-fits-all financing. They invest in potential and back growth. Visit emprisebank.com/KC to learn more. Emprise Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Thank you to Emprise Bank as well. Great partner of us here at KC Sports Network. Also want to give a shout out to our KCSN Substack. Herbie Teope is now writing for the KCSN Substack. You can go to KCSN.com. You go to KCSN.com. Nice, clean, little URL right there. Not a big deal. Kind of cool. Go to KCSN.com, and then you can subscribe for $30 a year, $5 a month for all of Herbie's work. You'll get all of Herbie Teope's work as he started with us at the Combine. Great stuff there as we are hitting into free agency as well. Okay, let me do a couple of housekeeping things, and we can get into kind of the some extracurriculars, I guess, if you want to call them, other topics of conversation. Obviously, if you're here, you know that the Bears are trading for Joe Thuney, a 2026 fourth round pick for the Chiefs interior offensive lineman. This trade is not a clean trade. The Chiefs take on $10 million of dead cap of the $26 million cap hit. So they will give $16 million to the Chicago Bears. This tweet from Maddie Lane, I think, kind of sums it up. At least my feelings on it. I get it. Don't love it, but I get it. And that's, I think, kind of the general sentiment when it comes down to it, is that, look, they did trade away a very good offensive lineman to try to make their offensive line better. That's not going to, like, really make sense in my brain, maybe because I've got, like, a dumb brain, right? Just like, wait. How is that working? But this could allow them to open up some things here in free agency, where they were going to have a lot of money, or not a lot of money to deal with the franchise tag. But Josh, this could open up some doors here.
Yeah, it could open up some, but it's not going to open up as big of a door as I think anybody feels like.
It's a small door. It's not a very big door.
They traded the best, probably the best guard in football for a future fourth round pick. Yeah. And they're doing it so they can pay Trey Smith and start Kingsley Suamata'i. Like, that's the shuffling here, right? So They haven't said the Kingsley thing up front, but like that seems pretty clear. It's hard for me to imagine that they're planning on playing him at left tackle, and it's hard for me to imagine they don't have a plan at left guard right now. You traded up for Kingsley in the second round. I'm gonna put 3 comments up on the screen here, and these are 3 comments that came back to back to back.
Ooh,
that I think all like, I'm not dunking on any of these, but I think the relationship of these 3. Did I do that?
I think so, but it's okay. I can change it.
There we go. Sorry, I don't think I clicked anything over there. My mouse is on that side, but I have back end stream powers now, which Tucker has so graciously given me, and it's made me more powerful than I need to be. 3 comments in a row. First one here from Mahomie 30. We drafted 3 O-linemen last year and 1 the year before. We have to give one of those guys a chance to start.
Yep.
Classic American old man. Reed sentimental pick Kingsley will fail. And then Joshua Ziltra. Patriots lasted 20 years because they did things like this. And then, you know what? Make it 4 in a row from Patrick. This is life when you're paying a quarterback $500 million. Can't pay everyone. Choose to pay the younger one and get a draft pick. Good job, Veach.
Yeah.
I think all 4 of those comments are a fascinating little 4-pack there, because there's merit within all of them, and I feel like none of them single-handedly encapsulate everything that's happening here. So 1, the Chiefs have been drafting offensive linemen. Now look, they gave Wanya Morris, basically, he basically has a season of starting experience. I don't know what exactly his number is, but it's got to be very close to 15 to 18, I would think, in games he'd started at tackle. And he was inactive in the playoffs last year. They draft Hunter Norzad in the 5th and CJ Hansen in the 7th last year as interior offensive lineman replacement guards, right? Like, what the best case scenario was that one of those guys was going to take over probably for Trey Smith, but now in this world, take over for Joe Thuney. I don't think that's going to happen because the second round tackle they traded up for, I mean, I would say failed in spectacular fashion, but I also have changed my tone a smidge to note that the coaching staff and the front office did trade up for a developmental tackle, played him for less than 2 games, and then quit the experiment entirely. I don't love the attitude of all of that. I don't know. They must be really confident that he's really buns at tackle permanently, right? Like, they must see no development there to give up that early, because a long-armed young left tackle is even more valuable than a long-armed left guard on a rookie contract.
Right.
They seem to have called that fight. Okay, whatever. But you do need to escalate those guys to take over large salary positions. That's true. But as they're getting ready to give Trey Smith, we think, $23 to $24 million a year, they trade away Joe Thuney and free up $16 million in salary cap space in 2025.
Mm-hmm.
The only way this team gets better in 2025 is however those $16 million for Joe Thuney get used. Now, maybe that's enough for another 1-year deal for Hollywood Brown and then some roster filling. It's not going to be enough for Hollywood and Aminahu, or even Hollywood and Tershawn Wharton. I don't think it's going to be enough for Nick Bolton. Certainly not, like, while they are also filling other holes in the roster, right?
Right.
They could get any of those deals done for a number that they'll have the flexibility for. Are these wise long-term? All of that. The other thing about that Patriots comment, they had, and first of all, like, they did go a decade without winning a Super Bowl, which is just something that's kind of been lost to history. It's just wild.
People forget about. They're 2 separate dynasties. I'm firmly in that camp. There's 2 separate dynasties.
But you have the head coach and the quarterback, and it's the same name on the jersey, same sleeveless hoodie on the sideline.
Yes.
But you have to make moves like that where you leave a step early. That was kind of the thing the Patriots became famous for. Yeah. Instead of giving you the big contract, you move on from the older player. This is a little different because Tooney's been under contract and performing at an extraordinarily high level for this team. This is moving him on to get a little bit of wiggle room to get you one of those picks. But really, it's paying Trey Smith. The most important part of all of this still is that Trey Smith has to be elite from 2025 on. And he's been really, really good.
Yeah. Yes.
I think Trey Smith has to be better for this bet to pay off, because you are betting on him reaching closer to Joe Thuney heights. And the Chiefs are saying, no, that's who that player is. It's also a bet on Kingsley. It's also a bet on there not being a left tackle on this roster right now.
I do think that the age issue is
Huge.
the big motivating factor here. Especially they do get a lot younger on this offensive line now. If you are taking a 32-year-old Joe Thuney and replacing him with a Kingsley Suamataia, who was pretty young when they drafted him. I don't have his age. A
decade younger. That position's getting a decade younger. I think Kingsley just turned 22.
Yeah, he was pretty young when they drafted him. We have some more news as we are joined by...
We're not getting any younger.
BJ Kissel.
No, I'm bringing the average age on this one up.
Sorry, BJ, you have been traded to the Bears for a 2027 7th. It's all we could get. I'm pretty happy with it, though.
Yeah, pretty good. Just getting the kids had a 2-hour delay start for school today because, of course, this is
can't go to school
what
anymore.
School season has become. But no, I haven't been following what you guys have been saying. This is a perfect example of a move that I don't like it at all, but I completely understand it because we just got done watching the Chiefs offensive line struggle and get beat. And now we're going to get rid of one of the pieces that was pretty good from that line and then try and figure out a way to feel good about it going into training camp. And I just don't think that's going to be possible. Doesn't mean that Kingsley or any other option that they end up bringing in at guard doesn't ultimately lead to the Chiefs offense being successful. But the last time that we saw this group as fans, they struggled, and now we just replaced one of their better players. So this is the NFL. This is why Brett Veach, this is why they get paid. This is them doing their jobs. I just don't like it right now, but the compensation I actually think is pretty good. A 4th round pick, considering everything else. Like, I don't think that's pretty good, all things considered. but I just don't know how you feel good about the offense in general. It's not even the offensive line. We've seen you can't feel good about Mahomes if Mahomes is running for his life. And not that he played great in the Super Bowl either, but I get it that he's 33. You only can pay so many guys. You've done that with him already.
Yeah.
I think the bigger mistake is doubling down, keeping him. He gets injured, something happens, and then you're even in a worse spot going forward. The Chiefs have been very good for a while because they don't get tied up into contracts like what Joe Thuney is from here going forward, not what he's done to this point.
I think it's a good point. Nate Tice makes a really good point on Twitter, too, of just about kind of this offensive line makeup as a whole. And he obviously brings up Kingsley Suamataia, who will be given a shot to start at left guard. But left tackle remains a question mark. He says, but I doubt Andy Reid and company leave that unaddressed. Chiefs had so much tied into their offensive line after tagging Trey Smith. Something had to give. Josh and I mentioned that it was like, we're talking about close to $50 million in the interior offensive line when you throw Creed Humphrey in there too. And like something did have to give. It was one of those things where, we had talked about like the cap hit had to happen. Like you had to either extend him to change that 1 year cap hit. You had to trade him. You had to do something because you couldn't go into this year with so many. I see a lot of people in the chat here asking like, what happens at tackle now? Like like obviously like we'll see as that goes because there's some interesting tackle options. I don't know that there's a lot that the Chiefs would be. Well, let me say, I'll say this. There's not going to be a perfect fit at left tackle for the Chiefs. That guy just doesn't exist. And if he does exist, he's on another team and he's making a whole lot of money. Just kind of how that works, especially in the draft. If you look at it, where the Chiefs are drafting, where the top offensive linemen guys will be, are going to be way high up in the draft. Those guys are going to be very highly draftable. I do think that it's a very interesting conversation to have about just like where this offensive line goes from here. I'm trying to find this comment here because I thought it was interesting. They said if Kingsley was going to be the plan at left tackle or left guard, I should say, how come? Here it is from King Carson. If Kingsley is the plan for left guard, why did he not start over Caliendo last year? I think that's an interesting question to ask. They have a lot of trust in Mike Caliendo. I know from talking to Andy Heck at the Super Bowl, they really like Mike Caliendo and they just kind of like his swing versatility. So I don't know. It's one of those really interesting things, Josh, of terms of where they're going to go. Yes, Josh Simmons, Graphic 13, is one of those guys at left tackle that could be interesting. Here's short arms. I don't know, man.
Here's where all of this feels like deja vu. Okay, part of the O-line cap problems were that they paid Jawan Taylor, and everybody was generally pretty happy with the Jawan Taylor signing. It wasn't a back-breaking number. He wasn't elite in Jacksonville, but he came in and he fixed one of your tackle spots, right? Well, he's underachieved that number, and now people hate him. The question about Kingsley and Caliendo at guard is funny. I think I'm not defending this necessarily, but I think there's like a decent chance that the week one starting offensive line is DJ Humphries next to Kingsley Suamataia on the left side, two guys who did not play in the Super Bowl in those positions, right? Like obviously you wouldn't have needed to do both because you still had Joe Thuney, because he's good at football, something that I don't want to forget at this exact moment. But I think that Andy Reid was pretty clear with him running through the hot hand logic of Caliendo's been working in this spot all year. Kingsley was working at tackle. Then he started working around the line. And he was kind of did some six lineman stuff. Then they got optimistic about him at guard. Mm-hmm. I think like three guys would have had to have gotten hurt before Kingsley would have ended up playing in any position in the Super Bowl. I think that was as legit of a red shirt season as you're going to get in the NFL level, obviously, starting week 3.
When you look at the Chiefs free agency, too, we talk about the age of Joe Thuney kind of playing into this already, 32 years old. The Chiefs already having some of their own guys come up for free agency who they've drafted, Nick Bolton being the youngest one of them. Where it looks like he's 24.9 years old according to Spot Track as I'm looking here. But like looking at other UFAs, I mean, they've got Tershawn Wharton as a guy who's young, who they could probably bring back, that they're going to need help on the defensive line side of things. Caliendo is an exclusive rights free agent. Minihue, Hollywood Brown, you mentioned him earlier, Josh. but like Justin Reed, and Derek Nottie, do they continue doing the 1-year deal? Derek Nottie deals? We'll have to see. But like, there's a lot of younger guys. Like this year, they've got a ton of just a ton of guys that like they're going to be tasked with either like re-signing or having to make decisions on. And I think this is just one step in trying to make a lot of these decisions, is clearing space to make the decisions, right? I still think, let me go back to this tab here, Josh. I still think that they're over the cap. Like, I still think, according to Spot Track, they still, $1 million over the cap space with their top 51, according to Spot Rack.
Yeah,
so
and over the cap still has Thuney's cap number on there, and they're 18 million over.
And so like you just take away, you have to take away the 16. So yeah, I mean
that Mahomes has to get restructured. Look, we've been talking about Clark Hunt a lot, and I don't know if this is step 1 or step 2. I don't know if he said I'll open the checkbook for this guy, but not for Joe Thuney. I don't know if Brett Veach asked him to do a little restructuring extension for Thuney, but some of these long-term cap hits, or some of these short-term financial check writing opportunities can turn into long-term cap hits, which would free up a ton of space. Seth just wrote about this recently. There are a lot of moves, specifically Mahomes, Chris Jones, Travis Kelce, pretty easy ones of guys who are going to be here for a long time, or in Kelce's case, probably in his last year anyway. There's room for them to make more space. It's just like BJ was saying earlier, you have there's an entire conversation around the offense now where everything's a little bit more uncertain. It's not just that you're replacing Joe Thuney with Kingsley. It's now like, well, so is the offense going to evolve in some meaningful way? Like, if the left side of the offensive line is a brand new left tackle, if it's Ronnie Stanley or DJ Humphries, or I guess a rookie, it's technically an option, although I don't think it really should be. It is going to be a real moment of change here, a real inflection point for this offense.
I start a comment here. CDog22 says, why don't they move Taylor to left tackle and Morris to right tackle? I think that's interesting. I think he did look good at a right tackle, and he played a lot of right tackle in college. But my worry is maybe you create more issues. By trying to plug one issue, you might create more issues. And I think we had that conversation, you and I specifically, when we were both writing over at Sports Illustrated for the Chiefs Super Bowl against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Like, we were like, well, they could do this, and this. And then you're like, are we trying too hard here? Like, are we trying too hard to fix too many holes by moving things around, creating more holes? I think that they're just gonna kind of roll with it here. They had to get younger, and they do. With everything like that, I think we got BJ Kissel back with us now as we are rolling on here on the breaking news team. We'll go here for a little bit longer. What's really fun, guys, is that Matt Verderam and I were going to record our podcast here, and we're actually supposed to do it at 9.
Tucker, I just want to say, I think, and I hope BJ's okay with me disclosing this, I think BJ's having problems with his dongle.
And if you're having problems with your dongle, you go to... No, I'm just kidding.
Can we get a sponsor for dongle problems?
This trade is giving me dongle problems.
I'm having dongle problems after seeing this trade compensation.
To be fair, though, I know that,
Hold on. Sorry, Tucker. BJ's banging on my front door. I got to go let him
in. I know that a lot of people were disappointed, upset, appalled. What other sensationalized word can I throw in there?
I'm unenthused.
Unenthused,
it's not quite as sensational.
One. About with the trade compensation. I don't think it's awful, though. Maybe I'm in a camp by myself. It's just like, I know the Bears did just overpay for another interior offensive lineman. So when I saw it was the Bears, I was like, oh yeah.
Right, here we go.
Releasing them, baby. Here we go. Because they just paid, what did they give up? 2 top 100
number 10 overall for Joe Thuney.
They just gave up a couple of picks and for a guy that didn't play last year. So I was like, oh man, what are we gonna get here? So I was like, man, only 1 pick? That sucks. But I still think it's okay. I think it's fine.
Here's the other part of it that is causing me so much conflict. Is that so Field Yates tweets about, the trades for Thuney and Jonah Jackson, and the Bears have some options, and Mike Golick Jr. quote tweets it with something that I completely agree with. Gojo said, Bears fans should be thrilled.
Absolutely.
And I think they should be. They have now they have addressed the most fragile part of their team and the part of their team that could get Caleb Williams killed. Like, they are doing the right thing, especially it's a quarterback on a rookie contract. Like, team building wise, this makes sense. I understand why they're doing this. They should be doing this. But it's a little bit of a bummer to be on the other side of it and going, man, I mean, this is really cool. Like, the Bears should be really happy with what they've done this week, I think, and giving their young quarterback a chance. And so you sit over here going, what? I guess that 4th round pick in another year could be kind of fun, but what am I going to do with my hands now? Like, the Bears got better. The Chiefs got worse today. Again, that's dramatic, but like, it's what happened. Oh man, good stuff for the Bears. Yeah, the Chiefs had to make another kind of painful offseason trade of a beloved veteran who needed to move on for one reason or another. It's becoming kind of an unsatisfying tradition here of watching great players leave for underwhelming compensation, if not fair. I see BJ nodding. Can we hear BJ?
Through my AirPods, yes. It's probably going to sound a
very
little
good.
different. It's probably going to sound a little different.
It does.
I can't get two things. I can't get two things plugged into my dongle. So only one.
Oh, well, that's your problem.
and even that's a little iffy. But yeah, I think that the first two moves to come from the Chiefs since the Super Bowl was not getting the deal done ahead of the franchise tag with Trey Smith, which is a bummer, and then trading Joe Thuney. And the only thing that we talked about for a week and a half after the Super Bowl was the Chiefs' offensive line.
Yep.
That's why we all feel the way that we do. But it's also March 5th, and the Chiefs have never really had an exciting March for a few years. We try to have more exciting Januaries and Februaries, but again, I don't think I'm going to blame any Chiefs fan for being bummed out or wondering, how did we get better today and feel good about it? And there's just no way to do that. But these kind of decisions have to be made, and they're made by every good team at some point. It just sucks that it's played out the way that it has. But I said this on social media. I've said this for years. We watch the offseason plan play out in slow motion.
Yes.
They may have an answer to what left guard is going to be, but that player may not sign until later for whatever reason they have passed physical. There could be a million reasons why it's the case. I just always hesitate to react to every single thing that's happening, wondering what's the plan here, as if they don't have one, because they do. But again, we're watching it fall out in stages based on deadlines or a myriad of other variables that we get. So that's the only thing that's giving me a little bit of pause. But at the same time, you just traded one of your best offensive linemen, a guy that's really helped us be good for the last few years at a position that now we don't have a answer to feel good about as we sit here on March 5th.
Yeah. This is sort of a dangerous comparison, but I'm going to do it anyway. It's kind of like election night in that way, where you're like watching the votes come in and like states are turning different colors. It's like, well, no, all the votes are in. The votes all came through it. We know when the votes stopped in each of these states.
Yeah.
In the front office there, the Chiefs probably have most of the votes, but now we're seeing this as we go. They probably, almost certainly, they knew that Joe Thuney was very, very likely on the move, if not 100% certain that Joe Thuney was getting traded when they tagged Trey Smith. There is some plan at left tackle that we have not yet heard. It becomes a frustrating way to view it from the outside, though. But so, BJ, I want to know if your spidey senses are tingling at left tackle at all here now, because I feel like I have smashed every button. I have tried every mental piece of gymnastics. Is it going to be DJ Humphries? Is Kingsley going to play both guard and tackle, and they'll just play with four linemen next year? What's your best bet right now for what Brett Veach wants to do at left tackle?
I would have put all the money on the DJ Humphries, but the good news is we got a Donovan Smith signing, apparently. So Donovan Smith or DJ Humphries, I don't envision, and we talked about this at the Combine, Tucker. We were going around saying we've talked about free agency, we've talked about the draft, that you can't count on the draft being your answer for left tackle because you don't know who's going to be there. It's after free agency, so you're that's the last hurrah, unless it's some much older veteran that just doesn't want to go to OTAs and is going to wait till the end of training camp to sign because they don't want to go to training camp either with some of those guys. So I don't think that there's some great option because we were talking, Tucker, who do you trade for? Like, who's a young tackle that is on a team that's willing to give him up? If it's on a rookie deal, they're not going to give up a decent left tackle on a rookie deal because those guys are hard to find.
Yes.
And the older ones are on teams that I just don't see a scenario in which it makes sense to trade to the Chiefs. Right. And so the Chiefs are in a tough spot. It's kind of like picking at the end of if you don't have a quarterback, you don't have anything. And the Chiefs are kind of in that position where You don't know what you're going to get. Hopefully you get lucky in the draft and somebody falls and you take them and they end up being pretty good. But again, it's going to be really hard to feel good the way this is playing out about the Chiefs offense. It's going to be a wait and see thing. It's not going to be like, hey, this team's going to kill it. Because there's going to be some unknowns and there's going to be some, hey, we need DJ Humphries to be healthy, or we need this to happen. Have you guys found anybody that could be a trade target that we have not discussed?
I have not.
No.
Okay.
I
So
mean,
the
it
answer is
is
no.
really, we have gone through it, and it's just,
When you guys went live, I saw Tucker, assembling the breaking news team. I was trying to figure out like an analogy of what this is like, of like, you can't take everybody with you. And every analogy that I came up with, it's like, you're comparing Joe Thuney to my daughter's like truck that she can't take to Manhattan on vacation because it won't fit in the car.
Right.
It's like, you can't take everything that you want, even though you love it and it's great. Like, we can't do it. That was the best option I came up with. Everything else was a lot worse. It was putting like the old dog out. Like, there's a lot of, he's still a good player. I backed away from all those other analogies that I was trying to come up with. It's just crappy situation. And the Chiefs are in left tackle purgatory. Like,
Yes.
we talk about quarterbacks all the time. If you have the 10th best quarterback in the NFL, you're in a horrible position. The Jacksonville Jaguars are in an absolute horrible position because they're having to pay an average quarterback a ton of money because you're going to be a lot worse if you let him go. Robert Klemko used to write for Sports Illustrated a long time ago. He said something to me at training camp one year about Alex Smith. And he said Alex Smith for him was the Mendoza line of quarterbacks. He's the worst quarterback in the NFL that you could still win a Super Bowl with. Yep. And if you're right on that line, everything else has to be good. Anyway, getting off topic here. Very Only Weird Games-esque, for being honest here.
BJ, it's 9:30 in the morning,
it's a tough
and it's 9:30 in the morning on a Wednesday, and Tucker and I have been here for 40 minutes. You're welcome to take any tangent you want. This is explicitly a weird show.
That's true.
My daughter just got back from Aldi. I think she bought another giant stuffed animal, so we're gonna go.
They got a lot there. They got a lot of giant stuffed animals.
They're $20. They came back like this thing that was the size of her was $20. I'm like, that thing should be at least $200 based on what we've seen.
Should she be driving in the snow like this? That seems dangerous.
No, they're supposed to have a field trip today, and Megan, my wife, took off to go on the field trip, and the field trip got canceled because the school was delayed. So
field trip to Aldi. Day. Yeah,
I got a bunch of meetings. I got a bunch of non-fun stuff to do. So, but I wanted to hop on and talk a little breaking news and make sure that you guys were doing all right.
You know what's really fun, BJ? A peek behind the curtain here is I've been working on like the new KCSN bumpers, right, for YouTube, and I found
when you texted, I was like, "Yeah, do you have the breaking news bumper done?"
I've almost there, not done yet. So I was like, of course. I was.
We can see how the sausage is made. Do you have the Herbie graphic done? Let's just have this. We could have our monthly. We could have our monthly right now.
Let's do meetings live from now on. That feels very.
We'll do those publicly now. Everybody can hear how we discuss everything.
Yes, I would like.
Did you get this done?
BJ, I would like a performance report from you, but I would like to do it live as content.
I swear too much in real life. That would not be good.
That's true. Okay, I've got a tweet I want to end the show with. From a guy that I think we all know and really respect his opinion. Brandon Thorne, our offensive lineman. He's a very trusted authority on offensive line. He kind of sums up the trade as, I understand this Thuney trade from both sides. Easier to see why Chicago would do it with needs across the offensive line. And for KC, they had two studs at center and right guard, and the quote, better to be a year early than better to be a year late idea comes to mind here, but they need to find a left tackle now. I think that perfectly kind of summates what this, is that a word? Did I make that word up? It perfectly summarizes what the general feelings for me specifically on this trade are. Like, I think that, like, look, you're not going to find a home run trade. I don't think there's ever going to be a home run trade except if you're the Lakers and you're trading for Luka Doncic. I think that's the only home run trade to ever exist. But I do think that the Chiefs got younger. Did they get better? That'll be left up to the jury to decide. Fellas, any final thoughts before we get out of here? I got to record a podcast with Matt Vernon pretty soon.
Craig, Sully, and Jinx need to chill out because my text messages are just going nuts, Tucker.
Sully had a good point, though. Sully tweeted a good point. I saw that. It came across my timeline.
You're gonna keep me in suspense as to what this point was?
It just said, I hate it.
No.
He said,
That's all it said.
keeping Trey over Thuney, thumbs up. Not paying 2 guards and a center, thumbs up. The left side of the offensive line, puke emoji.
The Chiefs were in this position, I think, was it the Tampa? I'm going to get all the years mixed up, but they over leveraged themselves on second contracts with the offensive line in the past with Eric Fisher, Mitch Schwartz, LDT got paid. It's why they couldn't pay Mitch Moore. They didn't pay a center forever.
Yeah.
They let all those guys go and they had to reset it, and they did it very quickly. I just, based on everything that we talked about and who's available, just don't know what that is going to look like this year, but so they get paid, they can get creative. I know, I saw that comment. Thought you were going to ignore it.
Me ignoring a comment? You kidding? That's the craziest thing you said all day.
Show Seth again.
It really is. Mr.
I
Mr. Brownstone, I'd rather look at DJ's dongle than the Mizzou t-shirt. Thank you. Appreciate everyone hanging out with us. Josh, any final thoughts before I wrap this sucker up and I go to record another podcast?
There's a little KCSN vertical video from last week going around of me saying I didn't love the Trey Smith tag if it was the first move of a relatively normal offseason. Crisis averted.
Not normal.
I never expected it to be a normal offseason, but now we have a little more context for that one, and we will all buckle up, and I have to imagine that we'll be doing breaking news videos like this one at all hours of the day and night over the next month or so. And I'll be here for you, Tucker. I don't know if there will be any more offensive linemen, but I will be here.
Hold on, Josh. Before we let you go, I'm going to put you on the spot. I need a Matt Verderame impression of what that football show is going to sound like when they record here in about 5 minutes. Because, anybody's going to have an opinion on this. Matty V is going to have an opinion.
Look, here's the thing. Is that Barack Obama? What happened there? Look. They had to pay Trey Smith. The offensive line got to be better. My fellow Americans, look, let me be clear. I, Matt Verderame, can bring this country together. Unlike the Chiefs, I don't want to curse like Matt. I don't want to curse like Verderame on here.
No, it's going to sound like, it sucks.
He does.
It sucks. What are we doing? Oh, it's fine now. It's fine. Whatever. It's fine. It'll be fine.
He wanted Trey Smith so bad. He's like, listen, I got Trey Smith. I wanted him to have to try and sign Trey Smith. Now I'm playing left tackle. Sucks.
That's pretty good.
It's going between Obama and Richard Nixon. I had a better Matt Verderame impression yesterday. I don't know what happened.
And
not drunk enough.
That might be it. All right, that's gonna do it for that football. Not that football show.
That's
Sorry,
nice.
I hit autopilot. I just hit autopilot in my brain, and then I just decided to wrap it up. The KCSN Breaking News Team. We will be live with you every time the Chiefs break news. The Blazer is on. The Blazer is ready.
The Blazer stays on.
The Blazer will stay on the rest of the day in case the Chiefs make any other moves. But we will be right here with you. Verderame did an emergency pod. Sick. Okay, that's cool. But we will have more content for you. The KC Laboratory going live tonight. That football show we will record at some point and get it to you. We'll see when all of our schedules line up there. Only Weird Games, you will be live on Thursday. There's probably going to be something else going on, but all kinds of. Okay, Gardner Minshew has been released.
Breaking news.
Start a new one,
Right.
Tucker.
Sorry, guys. Got to start a new one. That's going to do it for the Breaking News Team. Thanks for everyone hanging out. We love you. We appreciate you. We'll talk to you later. I turned into Kent right there.
Gross.